So sometimes when people talk about Go Battle League, they get very discouraged because they think that if you lose the lead, then that's it, the game is over. But I took a selection of battles from the past few days where I lose the lead, sometimes pretty bad, and I still manage to recover. So hopefully this is useful or interesting at all. So this is a pretty bad lead for me. Double weak to ice, and Sandslash can get to Ice Punch really quick. So I switched to Deoxys, just because I know those counters are going to add up. He switches to a Hex, Alolan Marowak, which is kind of interesting. So usually my goal with my Deoxys switch, because I almost always use that as my switch, is to try to win this next matchup, or actually, yeah, no, to try to win it. Sometimes you do want to do like a sacrificial swap kind of thing, but here, Deoxys is too good for me to just sacrifice it. He goes for the Shadow Ball. I'm going to try to just hit him with as many Rock Slides as I can, because the rest of my team does pretty well against Alolan Marowak. It's not the end of the world if I lose this one, but I really, really, really need to make sure that I don't get that Sandslash versus Altaria matchup again. So for that reason, I'm going to shield this. If it's a Bone Club, so be it. I just wanna get out of this, hopefully. Rock Slide does hit Marowak pretty hard, but not that hard, because it's pretty tanky and Deoxys is pretty weak. So here I'm kind of just stuck hoping I can get to another Rock Slide, and thankfully I do, just in time. So this is going to be fine, and now I have switch advantage. I've won the switch matchup, so I'm feeling pretty good. Decent amount of HP too, so whatever brings in next, I'll probably be okay. Okay, Alolan Raichu. Now this is a little tough, just because Alolan Raichu does pretty well against the rest of my team. Like Altaria doesn't love it. It can have Grass Knot, which will take out my Lantern, but just gotta see what I can do. Those Dragon Breaths are really adding up. Unfortunately, that Sandslash had an Ice Punch ready, so I'm going to have to just tank it. But it's an Ice Punch, so it doesn't totally wipe me out, thankfully. I switch to Lantern. Now, Alolan Sandslash does get Bulldoze, and if this one had Bulldoze, spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Yeah, no, it doesn't. That would have hurt pretty bad. You know what, I'm just going to stop to check how much it would have done. Okay, so it turns out that Bulldoze would have done 90 damage, which I think might have actually flipped the matchup. Now, the second move on Alolan Marowak is on Alolan Sandslash is 75k, I think, which is pretty expensive. But in this kind of case, I think that would have gotten them the win, because here, then the Raichu probably would have been able to knock me out. And I don't think my Altaria had enough health to be able to take out the Raichu. And so here it's using a Grass Knot. And thankfully, so here my Altaria didn't have too much work to do. I don't know, this one was kind of close, I guess. I don't know if it's the best example of me overcoming a lost lead, but I still managed to get the matchups I wanted, so that's something. Okay. And now we have another one. Again, I think so far I've only really used this team for the most part, other than the first few games. So this one is against Cola Friend, and again, this is going to be a lost lead situation. I kind of want to change my team just because I'm sick of losing these leads all the time, even though I'm making it work. Competition is going to get tougher. So it's Registeel. I'm running into a lot of these. So as always, basically, I switch right into Deoxys. I do like that these counters are putting in some damage, so usually what I do here is I will not shield the first Flash Cannon, and then from there I decide whether or not I'll shield depending on what the Registeel is doing. Sometimes I get into these nice situations where I can kind of just farm it at the end, and it kind of rules to have a bunch of energy saved up for whatever comes in next. Even if it's not going to be super effective, sometimes it's nice. Yeah, so then here, this Flash Cannon I'm going to shield, because again, the goal is to, even though I lost that first matchup, to try to win the second one so that I can keep switch advantage and not have to worry about worry about getting that awful matchup again. Now there, they stayed in with the Registeel, which is fine for me, really. So that's something. They did switch it out, so I have to kind of keep that in mind. But ugh. Yeah, so there, I probably should have just switched to Altaria right away because Deoxys had some energy that could have been used towards something else, and he had switched to Venusaur, so going straight to Altaria would have been great. So for some reason, it's just a Frenzy Plant there instead of a Sludge Bomb. Maybe he's trying to bait, but he wasn't going to get it to the second one anyways, so probably should have just done the Sludge Bomb. Now there's a Lapras, and I'm feeling pretty good because if all I have left is Altaria and Lantern, even though he has 2 shields, I should be doing pretty okay with my Lantern. Because you can see that, like, these Dragon Breaths are putting in work, the Sky Attacks are doing a lot of damage. I'm hoping to burn a shield finally here. They do. So I just kind of let that Altaria die, and now it's Lantern's turn. So basically any move that this Lapras throws at me is going to be resisted. Unless it's Dragon Pulse, but it's willing to take that chance. There are a lot of games that seem to end kind of like this, where it's maybe just my Lantern at the end, and I have to decide when I'm going to use my last shield. Because I know that I can handle whatever Lapras gives me, I'm not using my shield here, but I'm trying to save it for when the Registeel is out, because Focus Blast I know is going to hit me pretty hard. Even though Flash Cannon is resisted. Double resisted. It was pretty close here, so I could have maybe just farmed down, but I don't know. I did that anyways, so this is going to be kind of close. Probably should have just farmed down. Now that I'm looking at it, because then I could have had a Thunderbolt ready for Registeel even 2, and finish this game a little bit quicker. So this I'm going to shield no matter what. Even if it's a Flash Cannon, I'm not going to regret that, because it would suck if... it would suck if it was a Focus Blast and I didn't shield. Basically, my opponent knows he won't be able to get to a Flash Cannon then a Focus Blast, so just went for the Focus Blast, which was, I think, the right play. I've basically always liked Lantern. I liked it in the early days of PvP, just messing around with friends. I liked it when I was a kid playing Pokemon Gold. So I really like that I've been able to make it work in Go Battle League. It's very fun to use at the end, basically. When you can land a nice big Hydro Pump on something, like, oh, it's so satisfying. So here's another game against Skull and Drina Man. These ones I'm not speeding up just because I kind of want to, I don't know, talk about my thought process a bit more. I don't know, whatever. I think it makes sense to go through them slowly. So here's a Clefable. Obviously, I'm going to switch out right away. Charm, oh, you know what? So this thing I've run into a couple times, and it's kind of a hard call because it's like, I know that Lantern will resist Meteor Mash. So if they do that, then I don't have to shield it, but often the Clefable will switch out like they did here. So it's much better if I switch to Deoxys, trying to get that Clefable Lantern matchup later on. Here, this Umbreon, you'll notice, is actually using Feint Attack instead of Snarl. Feint Attack does 3 damage per turn, whereas Snarl only does 1.6. 6. So you do actually want to use Snarl just for the energy generation. Don't use Feint Attack. I hope this person TM'd later. But you can see that this is going a lot worse for me than I'm used to the Umbreon Deoxys matchup going when I have shields. But I'm still getting these Rock Slides. However, it does mean that my goal of winning the second matchup after losing the lead was not met, so I'm going to have to figure something out. I end up putting in Altaria, mostly because I know that I'll be able to work away at that Umbreon a little bit easier than if I was using Lantern, and I can build up some energy towards a Sky Attack. Here, I just switch right out just because those charms hurt too bad. And he had switched to the Clefable, so he's locked in, so that's good. Here, I wasn't sure if this is going to be Psychic or Meteor Mash, so I do shield, just because if it was a Psychic, then it would have been game over for me. I didn't want to risk that. Here I go for the Thunderbolt, which actually, like, almost knocks him out. Not totally, but one more spark and I'm good. So I still haven't seen the third member of his team yet, and it's Toxicroak. So if Toxicroak hits a Mud Bomb, I'm in trouble. Here, I actually think I probably should have kept building towards a Hydro Pump, but I kind of chicken out and just go for the Thunderbolt. But thankfully, he does not farm me down, and he just goes for the Mud Bomb right here. I think if he did... Oh, not Mud... Sludge Bomb, okay. Yeah, I think if he did try to farm me down, he might have had a pretty good shot at killing me, because I was... That's great, Sky Attack. Because then he would have been able to hit my Altaria with the Sludge Bomb, and that would have hurt pretty bad. But, yeah, so there's when I still managed to win, mostly because my opponent, I guess, made a bad switch decision and locked himself into that Clefable. If he had just let the Umbreon die, I think he would have won that. But, you know, you learn. It's true that I guess some of these wins are not necessarily because I played them correctly after losing the lead, but just because my opponents made mistakes. But, you know, that's how it goes. I make mistakes too. So here I switch to Deoxys, and he switches to Seismitoad. So this is not great for me. Seismitoad is a water ground type. The one that the people refer to as a mud boy, that typing. I don't actually remember what its moves are, so I'm a little worried here. It does resist both of my charge moves, so I'm just hoping that this counter damage adds up. Don't shield this, it's an earth power. So judging by how much damage it did, I know I can't take another, but it looks like it took a decent amount of time for him to charge it up, which puts me in a pretty okay spot, just in terms of how things line up and whether or not I'll be able to get off another Rock Slide. And another Earth Power shows up. It's too bad. I basically have no option but to shield because, again, I don't want to get myself locked into something bad later down the road. I really want to have it so it's Lantern against Azumarill, not my Altaria. So here I go for a Rock Slide. I don't know if I could have been okay to just farm him down. I probably would have, but I didn't want to risk it here. If I'm doing a better job, I'm paying attention to exactly how much his fast move is doing, how long it'll take for me to get to another Rock Slide, but you know what? Here I was just like, I'm not going to risk it. I go for the Rock Slide instead of the Thunderbolt, just because I was hoping I would burn a shield, but I don't know. It's only one more counter, and I think I would have made it. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't have. Okay. So you know what? I did the right move there, but you know, you learn. So I bring in Altaria, thinking that right now it's just going to get sacrificed, basically. I'm using Altaria now just because my Dragon Breath damage will do more against Skarmory than it will against Azumarill. And I'm just going to sacrifice it, basically. I'm going to see how much I can do using Sky Attack here. I can hope I can get to another one, but I don't. But the whole thing now is, after this, it's all going to be about Lantern. A lot of games seem to kind of go like this for me, actually, where after a certain point, I realize that it's all up to Lantern, and so then I need to just to get things lined up as nicely as possible for it. I don't know how I was swiping there. That was wild. Yeah, it's got my Thunderbolt. And it's looking pretty good for me. And here again, I'm thinking about, like, okay, what moves could Azumarill have for me? Because it could hit me with a Play Rough, I shield this. And it's a Hydro Pump, but I'm still okay with having shielded it, because then I know I'll safely be able to get to this Thunderbolt, and then to another one against Skarmory down the line. Here I'm being a little cheeky and just farming him down. I'm okay with that. I couldn't remember exactly how much energy that Skarmory had. So, I don't know, better safe than sorry. Even though I know the Sky Attack's going to be resisted. So then I've got my Thunderbolt ready right away. And I'm good to go. Oh man, I love Lantern. And that Lantern versus Skarmory matchup is nice. Hope Skarmory gets to be pretty trendy. So I can keep using Lantern in situations like that one. This next battle against 2v25. This one illustrates what happens when I switch Deoxys into a Registeel lead and they don't just stay in. This is something that I would expect to happen. Yeah, so usually what will happen is they will always try to hit one flash cannon, but then sometimes they stay in and sometimes they switch out. I think for him it was a good idea to switch out here just because he knew that Registeel versus Altaria was something that he wanted to get lined up. And now those Dragon Breaths are doing a lot of work after I didn't shield that flash cannon, so this is a little scary for me. Thankfully I can get another Rock Slide before Sky Attack. And so my plan right now is to just let this Deoxys go. And then, oh man, yeah, just let this Deoxys go. Here, I think he could have gotten away with just farming me down a bit more. But I understand that he probably wanted to play it safe, just in case I was getting close to another Rock Slide. Yeah, so I let the Deoxys go. I bring in my Altaria. I know that he'll probably be able to hit a Sky Attack before I get to my first one. But I know it's just going to be a Sky Attack and not a Dragon Pulse, just because the energy differential isn't that big. So again, this is kind of like one of those situations where I'm thinking that Altaria is probably going to have to get like sacrificed at some point. Just because it's pretty likely that there is a... Yeah, okay, there's a Registeel, and I thought there'd probably be an Azumarill too. So this is, I guess, another one of those games where Altaria's days are numbered, and it's just about getting Lantern to do its thing. I've got 2 shields in this scenario, so I'm feeling good. I don't get to another Sky Attack, but that's okay. Right now, Altaria is done, and soon it's going to be just the Lantern show. So I guess this one, just thinking about that idea about winning the second matchup, I kind of didn't, but it was still okay, because he switched the Altaria into my Deoxys after I switched to the Deoxys and I had changed the flash cannon. But I'm still being careful, thinking about what could be in the back, which is honestly something hard to do. I'm still not great at that, about thinking about okay, if this is their team composition so far, what could be coming up next? Because sometimes there's kind of blind decisions about switching or shielding or tanking. They're based on unknown information in a way. You don't always know what's going to be in the back, but you sort of get an idea, right? If somebody's already used a Seismitoad, they probably don't also have a Swampert. But I guess that's kind of a silly example. But when a lot of people, not everybody, the meta isn't that centralized in Great League, but when a lot of people are using things like Registeel, Azumarill, and Altaria, then you can kind of think about okay, could there be an Azumarill on this team still? I don't know, at least that's what I've been kind of thinking. My team does also follow that pattern of my lead and then 2 counters to the counter to the lead. So my lead is Altaria, and then both Lantern and Deoxys can counter Azumarill, where Deoxys is the one that uses a switch. I like that template, so that's something I kind of try to think about when I'm making teams. And so if I do make a new lineup, I'm thinking that my lead will be... Maybe I'll make Deoxys my lead, just because then, even though I like it as a switch so much, it will counter Azumarill and Registeel, which I've been running into a lot of. Speaking of, there's another Azumarill. So as before, I guess these games might get a little repetitive, but I think it's still interesting. So I'm switching to Deoxys. Whether he stays in or switches out, I'm feeling okay, because... Oh, this was sneaky. Oh, that was with a friend at the time that I was doing this battle. And I remember just saying out loud, oh, he thinks he's so cute. That was a great, well-timed switch on his part. I thought it was safe. Ugh. So I know that this Deoxys is not going to be able to do all that much against the Flygon. So I'm just going to let it go. I'm just going to see what happens. And hope that I can get Lantern lined up against the Azumarill later and not Altaria. I do appreciate that these counters are doing a decent amount of damage. that really helps Deoxys out. Here it was a close call, but I decided I'm going to shield just because I do really, really want that switch advantage. I was torn on whether or not I would use this charge move or not, but I decided to. I guess I didn't want to risk countering it down, even though I think it would have been okay, and I probably should have done that, but oh well. So now he's got his Azumarill. I don't want to hit that rock slide, so that's a good example of why I should have tried to farm down. Probably switch my lantern, or bring in my lantern rather. I didn't switch. I only have 1 shield and he has 2, so I've got to be a little bit careful about that. There's some lag there. Hopefully that wasn't lag that would change the outcome of this game. Kind of looked like it was on both sides. He shields that Thunderbolt, which is a good call on his part. And now it's ready steal. Okay, so what kind of sucks here is now it's pretty clear that there's going to be yet another game where there's a ready steal and a Azumarill at the end, and my Altaria just needs to die, do as much as I can with it beforehand, then I let Lantern kind of clean up. I'll speed through this next part actually. I should do this more often, just like speed up certain parts of the battles and not others. This is actually one where I was pretty close to losing. There's just one key thing I think that my opponent did that ended up being a mistake. So I take out this Azumarill, and here you can, so attack incoming. I think he just immediately went for the flash cannon. Oh, you know what? Okay, yeah, because if that was a focus blast, then it would have totally taken me out. But I think I was close enough to the Thunderbolt that it was okay. Okay, yeah, I think I had that win either way. I don't think he would have been able to get to the focus blast, but that was actually a closer one than maybe it looked. I don't know, it still looked pretty close. So I'm gonna be all fancy and fast forward some of the beginnings of videos here. Oh, look at that. Anyways, the Skarmory lead, I switched to Deoxys, he switches to Swampert. I'm glad he switched out of Skarmory because then I can get it lined up against my Lantern later, which is awesome. But Swampert versus Deoxys, I'm not a huge fan of this. The Swampert does resist both of my charge moves, and it gets to those Hydro Cannons really quickly. So what I'm doing here is, just because I can't totally remember exactly how much each Hydro Cannon does, I don't shield the first one. I see that it's enough that I won't be able to tank a second. So I'm kind of just deciding mentally how I'm going to have to play the rest of this out. So he does shield this Rock Slide, which tells me that he's trying to, I don't know, get this Swampert to really stick around. But he doesn't know what's coming up next. I don't know. I did think it was interesting that he shielded the Rock Slide. Maybe he was expecting something else. Here, because I'm so close to that Rock Slide, I shield, even though it does feel like a bit of a waste of time, but I was just so close. There's no way. There's no way I wouldn't. I do have a little bit of extra energy too, so that if he shields this, or if he doesn't shield this, then I can hopefully put it towards something else. He does shield it, but you know what? That's okay with me, because that means he's used both shields at this point. So I'm going to let this, or I had no choice, I had to let that one go. I switched to Altaria I bring in Altaria, because then I can farm it down real quickly. And now I'm in a sticky situation where I would love to switch to Lantern, but I don't know what the third thing on his team is. So I'm gonna have to make a tricky call here. I go for this Sky Attack. So I guess just thinking about it, he probably doesn't have Azumarill on his team, just because. Okay, so my plan here was to try to tank a. Yeah, I was going to try to tank the Sky Attack just so he'd waste energy. It didn't work. Thankfully, I do hit this Hydro Pump. I don't know exactly how much it's going to do. I really hope it'll wipe out Vigoroth, but it doesn't. It survives a little bit. That's a tanky guy. I feel like the Bulldoze is coming, and as tanky as Lantern is, I don't think I'm going to be able to tank it, but I do okay. So this is just like a altogether surprising pair of moves. Here, I would have loved to be able to take out the Vigoroth, but I didn't, but that's okay, because I won't be able to do anything to my Altaria. Altaria doesn't have a ton of health, but it's over half. I know this Skarmory is coming in with a lot of energy, so basically I just have to hope that the Sky Attack I'm pretty close to, and however many Dragon Breaths I'm able to do, will be enough to take out the Skarmory. This one was pretty close, and I guess I wasn't able to really get things lined up like I wanted to, but I kind of toughed it out enough. Maybe this isn't the best example of, like, I don't know, strategizing through a lost lead, but it's a game where I lost the lead, but I still played it out and did okay. So, actually I lost both the lead and the next matchup. So, maybe that counts for something. Anyways. Ooh, here's another Clefable. Bad news. Bad news. A lot of people like to lead Clefable, I guess. I do think that it's probably a nice lead for a lot of situations, but I would just be so afraid of running into like a Registeel lead. I guess we can think about what the rest of the team would be, but you have to be pretty confident in your switches. Actually, yeah, maybe I'll pay attention to this guy's using just to see. Anyways, as usual, I switched to Deoxys here. And it's Meteor Mash. That's fine with me. And he switches to Azumarill. This is great. This is great because he's now locked into Azumarill. So this team is kind of clever because it's like 2 anti-dragon so far, what I can see. And and my guess is that this Azumarill will have Hydro Pump, just because I feel like if you were up against the Registeel lead, you'd want to have Hydro Pump. Here, I'm just going to let this go because I know I have my Lantern that I can bring in as soon as okay, it's got Play Rough. Yeah, bring in my Lantern just so I can take advantage of it being locked in. Here I've got some lag, but I think it doesn't actually affect us. Yeah, you can see that once the game started working again, neither of us had taken any damage or gotten any energy, so that's something. Get my Thunderbolt in. Love it. But now I'm again in a situation where it's like, okay, Lantern for sure has to be in charge of taking care of the Clefable. And I don't know what the rest of the team is going to be. I don't shield this, hoping it's just a power-up punch, but it turns out it's actually a nice punch. Man, so this game is actually just this morning, but I kind of forget how it goes. This doesn't look good for me. Thankfully, I do get to hit a Sky Attack here. I think I missed that bubble. I'm still not consistent at those flying mini games. And I was really annoyed at myself there because I was like, what if missing that bubble lost me this game? Thankfully, this Clefable does not get to another charge move, and I'm able to get my Thunderbolt charged up. Now here, what I should have done is I shouldn't have gone for the Thunderbolt right away. I should have gone for the Hydro Pump, because I know that Medicham just used a move, so I would have been okay. So here, I'm just taking in these counters, and even though I do have a shield, those counters add up. So there, I definitely should have just gone for that Hydro Pump, just because I was so close to it, really. But thankfully, I was still okay, as it was. And I think that, yeah, this is the last battle I have to show you of me losing leads, but still managing a win. Hope this was interesting. I do want to do a video, too, on specifically the battles I lost, because I think that's useful. That's useful for sure.